Hi guys, it's Julia. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing Becky Chambers' 3 novels, the Wayfarers series. So they're less of a series in the normal sense and more of a set of companion books. I think a lot of people have definitely read or heard about on BookTube The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. It was very popular when it came out. The second one, A Closed and Common Orbit, I just read a couple of weeks ago. And this one came out 2 years ago, and her newest one, Record of a Spaceborn Few, with a very pretty cover, just came out last month, and I've just finished reading it. So I'm going to kind of go through them all as a whole. The first one, A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, I won't talk about too much because I did talk about this in my July wrap-up when I reread it. I read it for the first time in 2014 when it came out. To me, it was a 5-star read. It's a character-based sci-fi. It follows an interspecies crew. So it has a human, there are a few humans, a human captain, a couple of other humans, and a bunch of other different species on a very long journey to a job they have to do at the other end. But the focus is really on the long way to the planet, as it says in the title. So it's really about all these different species learning to live with each other and learning about each other, learning about different cultures, and along this way they stop at different planets which are inhabited by various species, or if they're inhabited by humans, they're very different from the humans on the ship. So it's very vibrant, colourful. The world building is really, really complex and incredible. There's not much action in the typical sense of the word, but I think the momentum really comes from the character development, which is really great and really fun and just heartwarming. There aren't that many heartwarming books around. I feel like so many books are really sad or depressing. This one wasn't, so that's a bonus. Now, the second one came out a couple of years ago, and a lot of readers didn't like it as much as they enjoyed the first. And it is a very different book. A Closed and Common Orbit doesn't follow a huge crew like the first one does. It really follows 2 characters very, very closely. One of them is a human called Pepper. She does appear briefly in the first novel, but only as a very minor character. The second character is new. Her name's Sidra, and she is an AI housed in a human body kit. So she lives in a body that can pass as human. It looks like a human, but it's not an organic body. And that's actually illegal across the whole galaxy. So Sidra's software and hardware was actually designed to exist in a spaceship where she could control things, talk to everyone in every room, have cameras everywhere, help the crew out. So now that she's living in this body kit, it's very difficult for her because she feels very limited. She has this very narrow cone of vision rather than having cameras everywhere. Sorry, I'm getting a sore butt sitting on this floor. The book is structured through 2 storylines. So one storyline follows Sidra learning to live in this body kit. She lives with Pepper, who is showing her the ropes of kind of how to live in society, how to be normal, which obviously part of the point of the book is there's no such thing as normal, but at least to not draw attention to herself because she's living illegally. The other storyline follows Pepper. Now, Pepper is a genetically engineered human, and she was engineered to be a slave on another planet. And so from a very young age, as soon as she could kind of walk and talk, she was sorting scrap metal in this factory. And she managed, her storyline is how she escaped from that existence. Now, a lot of readers didn't like that element of this book because they sort of said that, oh, well, you know what's going to happen in Pepper's storyline because obviously she makes it, because in Sidra's storyline, Pepper's there as a fully grown woman, which is true. But to me, the point of Pepper's storyline is much less about how she gets off the planet and out of slavery, but it's actually about how she learns to be a person, because obviously while she's living in this factory, she has a very limited existence. She's only met other girls. None of them have any hair. They all have quite a limited vocabulary in a very old and outdated form of Ensk, which is kind of the human language. And there's just heaps of stuff she doesn't know. It kind of shone a spotlight on all this stuff you take for granted as a human that isn't a given. You need to be in a society where people care for you and teach you these things. And if you're not, then it's really hard and you'll not only be shunned, but you might die. You know, you won't only be lonely, but you could die. So I found that really interesting. And Sidra's story in particular, the way that Becky Chambers considered the limitations of the human body, I just found really fascinating. Not just the vision, but like how she moves, you know, the process of eating, the process of seeing, the process of listening, all this sensory stuff that's very different, configured differently for her than it is for a human. So that was really, really compelling. Anyway, the dramatic tension kind of escalates towards the end. I won't tell you what happens, but Pepper and Sidra kind of help each other out in various ways, and it gets a bit tense. I got quite moved. I cried. It's very different from the first novel. I really enjoy that it was structured so differently and had a slightly different focus, because I feel like it shows that Becky Chambers, it's really great that she could write something set in the same universe but in such a different way, and it really gave you a much closer insight into a couple of characters rather than kind of a broader one. So I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. On reflection, I might give it 4.5, but it's really great. I really enjoyed it. Now, the third one just came out last month and I just finished it. It's got a very pretty, I mean, they all have pretty covers, but this one's nice and colourful. It's called The Record of a Spaceborn Few. Sadly, I didn't love this one as much. I only gave it 2 stars. I still enjoyed reading it. It was still fun. It was still very easy. You know, I got through it very quickly, and I definitely feel like it informed my understanding of the universe that these books are set in. As I mentioned earlier, in this universe, all the humans have left Earth. Now, the richest humans went to colonize Mars and other moons and planets in our solar system. The poorer humans were left on Earth to basically cobble together what spaceships they could, head out into orbit and hope that other species would help them take them in. Now, many of the humans did move on to other planets outside of our solar system, but a lot of them stayed on the big spaceships that they'd built. So the Spaceborn Few are like the kind of the remnant of humans and human society still living on these spaceships. I guess the main idea is that this way of life that's been going on for so long and it has a touch of the like communist utopia about it. It's sort of like this nice society, but I suppose the cracks are starting to show literally because their spaceships are really old. But also figuratively because the newer generations are feeling really cabin feverish and are like, is there more to life than just getting a job and going through the motions and working this job for 40 years and then getting composted and staying in the same ship. But what I didn't enjoy about this was there was literally no plot. It was just like descriptions and characters doing things, but I never felt like if the characters was, you know, designed to be feeling sad or hopeful or whatever, I never felt like the writing made me feel like that too, whereas I felt like Becky Chambers did achieve that in her previous 2 books. So it sort of was just a bit bland, and I can't even remember like the characters' names, or they were sort of indistinct. There were so many of them and they didn't do anything. In fact, towards the end, there was quite an upsetting incident that was interesting and started to draw things together in a kind of interesting way. I almost felt like the book could have started there. You could have explored the same themes and integrated all the world-building stuff just into an actual story, not just kind of these bland, nice, inoffensive descriptions. But that upsetting event that kind of kick-started things was like 280 pages in and quite close to the end of the novel. So I don't know. I still liked it. I just think definitely not something that could be read as a standalone. And definitely don't read it if you thought the first book had no plot, because this has literally none. I definitely recommend reading it if you like the first 2, but I do look forward to another one. Thanks, guys. Interested to know what you think if you've read any of them. See ya.